Welcome to Africa's blockchain breakdown. Here is Kino Kami.
I've just arrived because
just arrived in the studio. Great timing. Kino.
Ambient noise is not the best thing in the world. So yeah, great to have you here. The blockchain breakdown, looking at Africa. What's it all about? Well, it's about breaking down what's happened in blockchain. And I want to start with the week that has just passed. I attended two events. Actually, last 2 weeks, actually, if I had to be totally accurate. The first one was the Emergo CVVC PWC, that report that was released, and it was about the state of Web3 in Africa. You know, they normally say you don't know what you don't know, but now you do know, because this is the report's given some really decent insights that'll help us sort of navigate the way forward. So that was wonderful. A lot of people still not aware of what Emergo is doing. And I mean, they're doing phenomenal stuff. $100 million fund. You guys are partnering with them. I think what a great symbiotic relationship. Just a little bit on that very quickly.
Yeah, Kino, was an awesome event. Emergo is doing great stuff. They launched into Africa probably a little less than 2 years ago, and they've done incredible things. They've launched now what is now the largest news platform in the continent, Nodo. And they do many other things as well. So it's not just your stereotypical Cointelegraph or CoinDesk. There's a lot of other new exciting things that Nodo is up to. They're investing in funds. They've invested in our fund. They're investing into startups directly. To put aside $100 million dedicated to Africa speaks volumes. And they've moved a chunk of their team over into Africa from all different parts of the world. So they're definitely bullish on what's going on in Africa. And yeah, it's exciting to see it. You can feel the energy is back. The bull market is here. So things are looking good.
I don't know what it is about Web3, by the way, and VCs when it comes to Web3. Normally, when you think about VCs, you think about people that you can't get access to, and it's difficult to maybe even just have a cup of coffee with them. But I juxtapose you as the MD for CVVC Africa, and then Yusuke Yoshida from Emergo. I mean, what a nice guy. And we won't mention the fact that he might be moving to Cape Town, because we're not allowed to talk about that, right? So I just think the space is lucky to have the people that are willing to back it. But time for us to move on to another event, Gideon, Crypto Fest. Sonia and the team, I think a much better venue this time, other than the helicopters. To see the amount of international interest in the continent is something that we should all be very happy about. What stood out for you?
I mean, I think just the sentiment and the energy and the feeling. I think the Crypto Fest in 2022, there was a different sentiment where there was a little bit of nervousness at the conference because we were in a bear market. I think there's a lot more energy now, a lot more excitement. There was a lot of people that traveled internationally. In fact, one of our industry voices today, Pascal from Fireblocks, flew down to South Africa for the event. So I think what stood out for me in general was the fact that you could just feel this energy. A lot of institutions had traveled down for the conference as well. A lot of the banks came down. I won't mention all of them. Some of them maybe are hiding the fact that they have blockchain or crypto divisions. But I met 3 new South African banks that I didn't know had blockchain departments that all traveled from Johannesburg to Cape Town.
Which was the most surprising?
Specifically.
Which was the most surprising to you?
Which bank?
Yeah. Come on, tell us. Let's put him on the spot a little bit. By the way,
I want to mention all of them because we're in discussions with all of them. So.
Okay, he's going to chicken out of that one. All right, I think we just move along. But I think it was great. One thing that really stood out for me, Binance was all over the news for all the wrong reasons, right? But hats off to Hannes, who basically stood on stage and said, listen, we know it's happening. You can ask me any questions you like. I might not be able to answer everything. So for someone to be in that position as a sponsor of an event, to still rock up and potentially face a barrage of damaging questions or answers to questions which could potentially be damaging if you answer them, was phenomenal on his front, actually.
Yes, sure. Hannes, for those of you that don't know, head of Binance for South Africa, they were also the lead or main sponsor rather for Crypto Fest. So yes, I think he took it very well, and interesting times for Binance. Let's see what happens. Interesting time to go through something like that during the bull market, but arguably it's a bit of a cleanup before things start becoming more mature and adopted correctly. They certainly didn't do things the way that you are supposed to as a regulated exchange.
Well, exactly. I can't wait to hear what Prof. Singer has to say about that one. But time for our news flash.
Ladies and gentlemen, the news for us, at least for the last couple of weeks, is that we are in the bull run. That's how we feel. That's what the data tells us. That's what the market tells us. Shortly, we'll go over to Brenton that will tell us more about that in the market watch. But just a couple of points of interest that shows how aggressive the market is looking right now. First of all, the market cap has increased by $400 billion since October. So there's $400 billion of new cash that has flowed into the crypto industry. So it's looking very, very positive. Of course, the spot ETF is still yet to be confirmed. It is expected, however. On the topic of ETFs, the world's largest Bitcoin futures ETF has broken its 2021 record highs for assets under management as well. So you can see a lot of institutional capital flowing into the space. There's a lot of interesting things happening. Glassnode shows us that 37,000 Bitcoin, which is over $1.4 billion, has been moved off exchanges. So you could argue that everyone taking ownership of their own Bitcoin and custodianship of their own crypto. First of all, the one thing that you need to consider from that perspective is that everything that Binance is going through. The other thing that you consider is, of course, the weakening sell side pressure from everyone taking custody of their own Bitcoin with the view of holding it long term. So things are looking very, very good in the market. There's lots we can talk about. Brenton is the expert. Let's go over now to our market watch.
Thank you so much, Gideon and Kino, and welcome to the first market watch of December. Hopefully, Bitcoin is giving us a little bit of an early Christmas present, as we'll see now. But as Gideon and Kino so rightly pointed out, it's not just the sentiment, as a South African, the hiss in the bull market that we're feeling, but it's the data that's pointing to a new bull market as well. So, as always, we'll start the week by taking a look at the Bitcoin chart. And this week, we'll actually be taking a look at it on the monthly. And the reason that we're doing that is because being December 1st, we've just had the monthly close for November, this candle that's highlighted here in orange. And if we look at the closing price, in November, Bitcoin closed at $37,719. So what is significant about that? Well, it is the highest monthly close we've seen, roughly for 19 months. So the last time Bitcoin closed at a price this high, we'd have to go all the way back over here to March of 2022. So as they said, it looks like we really are gearing up for a good bull market. But of course, we all know for the degens in the space, bull markets are really characterized by some altcoin activity as well. So Bitcoin, while it has been the leader for quite a while, we're starting to see some interesting points in the rest of the market. So we're going to look at Ethereum as a proxy for all of these other altcoins. And if we take a look at the Ethereum chart, we can see that if we switch down to the weekly time frame here again, we're starting to see some really, really bullish signs. So first of all, for the last 4 weeks, we can see that we have strongly reclaimed this previous range between, let's call it between $1,900 and $2,100, right? So $1,900 to $2,100. And we've been confidently trading in that range for the last 4 weeks. And Ethereum is really rearing to break out of that range. So we've seen the wicks on these candles really testing the top of this range almost every week so far. And we've still got 2 days left to give it another little touch. So Ethereum is looking great. And similar to Bitcoin, the last time we saw levels like this was in April of this year. But the last time we consistently saw us trading in these levels was back all the way here. And let me get rid of that graphic. Back in June, July of 2021. So we're really starting to regain some lost ground. both across Bitcoin and across Ethereum. And what's interesting, if you're trying to decide whether you want to be allocated to Bitcoin or Ethereum or altcoins in the short run. So some of them have been doing very well. Some meme coins such as Fufu. If you guys are looking at taking a look at some interesting charts, remember this is not financial advice. But if we take a look at our last chart for the day, which is the Bitcoin dominance chart. And again, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically telling us how much of the market is made up of Bitcoin, how much of the market is made up of the rest of the coins. And if we take a look at this, Bitcoin is currently around 53% of the market. We've broken back above this key level quite a while ago of the 50% Bitcoin dominance range. And if we are going to retest this range again, it means that we'll probably come down from a dominance level of 53 to 50. But what does that mean? And we can see that trend playing out, right? It's been downtrending ever since we saw Bitcoin dominance peak at 54%. It means that even if Bitcoin and altcoins are going up in unison, we're likely going to see more value accrued to the altcoin side than the Bitcoin side. So for those of you who've been looking at a great time to degen into a few altcoins, it might be the right time. It might not, but we're just looking at what the charts are telling us. But I want to finish off with some news that's been driving some of this activity. So the most recent macro news that we can attribute to that little uptick in Bitcoin is really the PCE numbers that came out from the US recently. So for those of you who don't know what this is, the PCE numbers are the personal consumption expenditure numbers. It's basically another way of looking at inflation. And why this number is so important is because this is the Fed. You know, we always love to talk about our old friend Uncle Jay out there in the Fed. But this is their favorite measure when looking at inflation, is the personal consumption expenditure metric. That data came out on November 30th, and essentially what it told us was PCE increased about 0.2% on a month-on-month basis, and it's sitting at roughly 3 to 3.5% across the different inflation metrics on an annual basis. And why that's important is because it shows us that inflation is really starting to cool down. It's really starting to decrease. The numbers are lower from the September numbers. And why this is important for crypto and Bitcoin is because it, in all likelihood, it means two things. So one, that the Fed is likely not going to increase interest rates at their next few meetings. But two, it's further clearing the path to the Fed actually starting to cut interest rates. And if you remember when we spoke about interest rates in their relationship to Bitcoin and risk assets on the last Market Watch, is as interest rates decrease, risk assets really start to take off. So this was a positive sign, not just for Bitcoin, but for all sort of equity assets and risk assets. And we can actually see that the futures markets across the equity market started to tick up after this information was released. But finally, that's looking back at what pushed price. If we look forward, there is a Bloomberg analyst called James Seyfried, who actually says that it's very likely, oh, there we go, it's loaded. So a Bloomberg analyst, James Seyfried, says that it's very likely that still 90% that a Bitcoin ETF will be approved by January 10th. And if we look at some of the biggest players in the game, like Standard Chartered, who I'm sure all of you know is one of the biggest TradFi institutions in the world, they expect that a Bitcoin ETF approval will likely push the price of Bitcoin to over $100,000, almost 3x where it is. And they expect this to happen before the end of 2024. So although we've seen some great activity behind us, it seems like the best is still ahead. So if you wanted to know whether to buy that extra Christmas present or whether to put that money into the market, again, not financial advice, but I would write someone a voucher for a massage instead of spending that money at your local shop. But with that, that is this week's Market Watch. And we will be heading over from here to our industry voices, the first one of which being a very close friend and a business that I absolutely love in Aaron Posthumus from Moment.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good to have you on, Aaron. You know I'm a big fan, right?
You guys are on mute.
Oh, we are on mute. No, we're not. There we are. There we are. We're off mute. There we go. We're off mute. There we go.
Yeah.
I thought we didn't get that one wrong. Anyway, Aaron, what a pleasure chatting to you. I'm not going to get involved in the nuances of who Moment is, how you got here, how happy, your family is that you're making such a big success of your life and that you've won so many awards, all of which is very true. I'm really interested in your solution. Suncash, right? It's something I speak about all the time when people talk about blockchain. We know South Africa is short of electricity. We're not generating enough. We're currently burning diesel. We've got some clown running electricity in the country. We don't talk about him too much. Let's talk about your solution. The thing is, if I've got money, I can put an inverter in and I can put solar on my roof. What I'm loving about the Suncash solution is that you are enabling people who wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford solar panels and all the other stuff associated with it. You enable them to get that solar, and the people who invest in Suncash also get returns. And the big question is, how did you manage to take a solar panel, which is illiquid, and turn it into something liquid that actually pays dividends?
Yeah, so it's a solution that I'm incredibly proud of. And I think it's one of those solutions that we're now seeing, especially in this new awakening bull run, everyone get excited about, because it really leverages all of the superpowers of blockchain. Like we saw the art renaissance with NFTs, which really take advantage of ownership, right? And provable ownership. But we haven't seen very many projects that take advantage of the ownership, the transparency, and the ability to really leverage smart contracts for payments, right? And I think that the payments component is important. So just for the listeners who don't understand, what it is and what we do, I'm going to try and give a quick rundown, nice and simply. So what we do is we get a school or a factory or a farm that comes to us and says, hey, we need solar. We can afford to pay our electricity bills, but we can't afford to put on a multi-million rand installation on our roofs to get power, right? And for any international audience in South Africa, we're really well developed. Don't get me wrong. We're like a first world country, except we've got no electricity, which is a big problem. So what we do then is we go, okay, great. We'll actually fund your entire solar installation, and we'll fractionalize that down per solar cell so that other people, retail or institutional investors, can buy up and own those cells. Now, when they pay their electricity bills every month, like they would anyways, that gets automatically redistributed back to the investors. And that's where the payment power comes in. And this is really important. We're using blockchain because it's more efficient, not because it's a buzzword. We can do payments in 30 seconds versus 3 to 5 days. And I mean global payments, so all over the world, right? And we do it at a cost of less than $3, even when we're splitting that payment to thousands of investors instead of thousands of dollars. Like if you speak to anyone who does remittances, average remittance fees are like 6.5%. Over here, we're splitting, tens of thousands of dollars for $3, right? So the percentage efficiency gain here is almost unbelievable. It's about like 650 times more efficient than traditional financial rails. And then we haven't even gotten into something that I know Gideon's really passionate about, which is the sort of anti-corruption element of it, because all of the contracts are transparent. They're embedded in the token themselves. The price that we paid for everything, including the little nuts and bolts that go into that solar installation, are open and transparent for everyone to see.
It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. What happens, and I know it'll never happen, what happens if Moment crashes?
So this is the really beautiful thing. The contract is actually between the investment cohort and the investment group and the site, the underlying site. So if Moment disappears, that contract actually still stands between those investors and through the off-taker. And because we've already deployed the smart contract, payments can continue as well. So it's super resilient. And yeah, of course, it's insured and maintained. So the site's, going to be up and running at optimal yields for as long as possible.
Can you hear it in the distance? Aaron Musk. Only difference would be his brain works properly, this dude, and he's got a really great heart. Wonderful challenge, Aaron. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I'm sure the people interviewers ask you the same questions over and over and over again. Is there one thing that you've always wanted to say, but you've never, ever got to say it because all these interviewers kind of figured out, listen, this is what they asked, maybe I should ask it as well. So anything else you want to throw in the mix?
Well, look, I'm just going to reveal sort of a statistic, and it speaks to a post that you actually recently made on LinkedIn about wanting to see more young people get involved in this industry. And I couldn't agree more. When I speak to investors, I have to tell them who our target market is or who our number one buyers are. And to be real with you, it's white males between the age of 30 to 50 years old. They come from a tech or financial background. And on one hand, it's really good that we know who our buyers are. But on the other hand, we're doing this because we want to democratize the opportunity to own the electricity grid, right? Guys, this is the first time in history where the government has admitted they have failed and they can't own the electricity grid anymore. And we have an opportunity now as a people to go, okay, cool, we'll take that off your hands. We'll own the grid, we'll profit from it, and we'll manage and run it, right? There's 125% tax incentive to do this. But because there's fancy numbers and there's financials and all of these things, we're still seeing the same kind of people who traditionally get involved. And I'd love to see a more diverse audience of young people, of men, women, and children from everywhere sort of getting involved in fixing South Africa's load shedding problem. We pitched yesterday. No, it was Wednesday. I had the opportunity to pitch directly to the legendary Tim Draper, venture capitalist of Silicon Valley. And he said, and I quote, we have this on video, so you don't have to take my word for it. He said, and I quote, "You guys are guaranteed to be a unicorn." So I'm super proud of that.
That's amazing,
and I would just love to see more people getting involved. And
for those VCs who've not invested in him yet, I'm not talking about, have you invested in him? Okay, he's looking the other way. For those VCs who've not invested, this is your final call.
Aaron, it's amazing to hear the work that you guys are doing, and that comment, speaks volumes in terms of the traction that you guys are getting. And it's a massive proud moment for South Africa as a potential successful export, which could be scaled across other countries with similar problems. And it's not only a problem for it's not only a solution for a country like South Africa that has the problems that Kino spoke about, but this can be scaled into developed markets as well. Aaron, this business is obviously taking you places. You're not in South Africa right now. Where are you?
I'm actually in Abu Dhabi right now. I can show you guys a little bit of the view if you want to check that out.
Nice.
Exactly what you say, Gideon. It's so cool to meet so many different people from all over the world. And when I tell them what we do, the first thing that I hear them say is, "Oh wow, we could use that in our country." And I'm talking to people from Libya, from Egypt, from Morocco, from Pakistan, every single other continent out there, except for maybe some of the first world countries. They have the same problem, right? And solar is a decentralized energy grid. It's a way to have mini privatized grids that are resilient. For that to marry with decentralized internet and decentralized money, I think it's a beautiful synergy. And I can't wait to see the dream come true.
Listen, I heard recently the Brits are also starting to do some load shedding. Obviously hiring some South Africans to work. No, I'm kidding. No, we are a great nation. We don't knock ourselves, but we're a great continent together. And I think that's the key thing. Very proud of the work you're doing. And you were talking about getting younger people involved. I wish as a parent, I could take some of the money that I would have put into some fund somewhere for my child, hoping that it would, deliver something when they eventually 25 to 40, put that into a solar installation or 12 and let that appreciate, you see. Now, these are the sort of things that I would do as a parent. Actually, I've got a 6-year-old and a 21-year-old. We don't talk about the age difference, but, to prepare them and hopefully help them secure a future. I mean, it's something I would consider as a parent.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's fantastic what you're doing, Aaron. and we're super excited to see where this takes you next. But Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We'll definitely have you back very soon to tell us more about what you guys are up to and to reveal further traction about Moment. Aaron, from Moment, you're a legend, sir. Thank you very much. Let's move over to our next industry voice, Pascal, who's the sales director for Africa and France for the largest, Pascal, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the largest custodian provider in the world, Fireblocks. Pascal, thank you so much for joining us. It's awesome to see you again. As I mentioned earlier, Pascal was, of course, at Crypto Fest and traveled down for the event. And Fireblocks hosted their own event as well that week. We had events from Fireblocks, from Cello, from Emergo and CBVC, from Filecoin, all in 1 week in Cape Town, the crypto hub of Africa. Pascal, what's going on your side?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor. As you can see, I'm the only one wearing a jumper here, so you can tell that it is below freezing in France. But so I'm back in France. Yeah, it was a very exciting trip actually. Before being in Cape Town, I was actually in Nigeria, where obviously it's a country where we're seeing a lot of stuff happening as well. And as you said, I'm leading the efforts in Africa, where we're seeing super interesting development. I guess, as you said, Gideon, we are the leader for wallet management in the world, and we have sort of a really special offering, which is a custodian, but it is self-custody. So all our clients are never taking counterparty risk against Fireblocks, and I think it really, in the last years, self-custody or direct custody has become extremely prevalent. And I think in the context of Africa, it's become, where there's like huge counterparty risk, trust issues. The product's been really well received. And in the last year and a half, we've done some fantastic work. And I guess I'll start saying by, you were all mentioning the bull market, and I'm looking at it as well. I've invested in crypto for a long time. But what I love about Africa is that, it didn't really wait for the bull market to have this massive crypto adoption, right? When we look at the Chainalysis figures of the volumes that are going through Africa in even 2022 or 2023, the numbers are skyrocketing, right? Which shows that, Africa is not waiting for a bull market to adopt blockchain, right? It solves so many problems at the core of the infrastructure gap, the sort of difficulties to borrow money, lend money, and all those sorts of financial intermediaries that, a bull market will help it a lot, obviously, for a lot of new actors to come in, institutional, super institutional, but still, the adoption is here and growing massively. So that's been really exciting.
Okay, now, anytime, I can speak a bit of French, by the way. So, I'll give you the only French I have.
Problem.
And it is normally when I see a wonderful French person and I want to have a conversation, I say, "Est-ce que vous comprenez l'anglais?" And then we can have a conversation after that, because that's the only French I know. But listen, I'm the idiot's guide guy here, right? So we talk about Fireblocks, you talk about custodian, and normally in the general public, if you talk about being a custodian, you think about being a custodian of someone else's child, for example. So explain this to me like a 15-year-old, right? What does Fireblocks actually do?
And, you're asking a very good question, because the truth is that we do a lot of things, right? We have a really broad product stack, but at the end of it, it's really simple, right? Everything in the blockchain starts with a wallet. Whether you're trying to keep some Bitcoin in your wallet or move some assets in cross-border for payments or creating some tokens through smart contracts, you need a wallet. And that wallet obviously comes with a private key. And in the original sense of the blockchain, it comes with what we call a single point of compromise. So what we do is help our customers generate wallets and build wallet infrastructures. But the difference here compared to maybe traditional custodian is that Fireblocks is really a tech provider. So we are going to provide an infrastructure for our clients to custody their assets themselves, thanks to Fireblocks. So that private key effectively is always going to be with our customers. And it's quite powerful, because when you think about it, there's obviously security, right? So if Fireblocks goes down, you are not taking any counterparty risk, so you're not losing any of your assets. But once you have also control of your assets, you have control of much more than just like the security. You have control over who you interact with. How do you integrate different building blocks? Your compliance, for example, you can own your compliance, you can own your governance, you can own a wide range of liquidity providers. And out of a sudden, you become much more open to the ecosystem without having compromised anything on security. And that's really what we're about. At the end of the day, we're a cybersecurity company. So we're giving our clients the ability to sort of scale their operations, venture into multiple use cases, with always them having full custody of their assets and how they interact with them.
Wonderful. I think now I understand what you do. And I think it's brilliant. And it also takes us to Professor Monica Singer always talks about why centralize when this whole thing is about decentralization. And in my mind, I mean, Fireblocks enables and allows us to truly decentralize when it comes to custody of coins, etc. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
And Pascal, what I was interested to hear about from your side, and you mentioned us going into the bull run, and of course, a lot of the use cases in Africa have strong utility, don't necessarily rely on having token as the underlying asset within their ecosystem. Moment is a great example of that. They don't have a token. They don't need to have one. That being said, the whole sentiment around blockchain as a technology is driven by the bull run. So there's a lot of excitement happening in the market right now, and that creates a lot of FOMO and people wanting to explore the space more. Institutions start looking more at the space. And even though Moment doesn't have a token or a coin, people start understanding the technology more, and it creates adoption throughout the entire ecosystem. So that involves all the African startups. And on that note, Pascal, you've got a sort of a look into this. The developed markets, of course, have adopted the custody providers like Fireblocks first before the developing markets. But now you're starting to see a huge uptick in the likes of institutional clients like banks, which I know you had many meetings with whilst you were in South Africa. And now you're starting to see a lot of them starting to hold crypto on their balance sheets and requiring services from Fireblocks. So on that note, what are you seeing as you enter Africa and you start seeing everyone entering the space? What's the feeling, and what are you seeing?
Of course, and it's very true what you say, Gideon. We have like a bird's eye on a global level, but also in Africa, right? Because we service from startups to corporates to banks to central banks to super institutionals. So we really have like a unique vision of that market. And effectively, what we're seeing at the moment is a broadening of the use cases, right? So in Africa, where effectively before it was sort of holding, if I summarize it, holding digital assets to sort of protect yourself against depreciating currencies, right? And then the second use case was to sort of move money easier, so cross-border payments. So obviously that resolves so many problems in Africa, and those were use cases that don't really need a bull market, so don't really need because they have sort of the local, economic issues to sort of fuel them. But today, the broadening of the use case is sort of now looking at, in particular, what we're seeing is looking at tokenization, right? We're getting calls today from obviously a broad array of clients, and it can go from governments, entities that are looking at revolutionizing the way that they deal with land registry. Governments coming to us saying, we are Nigeria, we're struggling to issue bonds on the market because nobody wants them. How about we kind of cut the sort of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs ties that we've had for a long time, and how about we create our own digital bonds? That's from a government perspective. But you also have banks today in Nigeria, in the whole of Africa, that are thinking, all right, how can I sort of create better investment products for my customers? Maybe I want to tokenize real estate. Maybe I want to tokenize some of the investments I have to recycle this. So we're seeing tokenization as a broad subject really picking up greatly. But I guess, another point is that we're seeing the rise of institutional and super institutionals. And that's extremely important, right? Because at the end of the day, those are the people who are really going to build the infrastructure for the next massive wave of retail investors to access this technology. And us as a B2B, we're seeing that, and we have to acknowledge that the next billion customers that are going to enter blockchain are going to want to know less about blockchain and more about what it brings to them. So we need somebody in the middle to sort of chew that up. At the end of the day, we're all using Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. None of us have any idea how this works, right? So in the next 10, 15 years, we need those institutional, super institutionals to create those platforms for the broader adoption. And then I guess the last point that we're seeing is the rise of regulation, right? And obviously, it's a double-edged sword, and it kind of slows down activity in the short term, but I truly believe that in the long term, it is the sort of foundation for a healthy ecosystem, right? South Africa is proving this. South Africa is proving this massively, and we're seeing this, with a new focus group that's being built in Kenya to start draft the bill. We're seeing some moves in Nigeria as well in the last month, and the rise of regulation is really going to bring a lot more security in the blockchain, and at the end of the day, a lot more stability for the end users with products that they can trust and they can truly explore. So I guess that would be the three developments that we see, and it's extremely exciting also to see this in the context of the adoption that we're seeing from retail, because it is pushing central banks to really think about how they're dealing with this technology, right? You think about Morocco. Crypto are illegal there, and they are number 20 in the world that has the biggest crypto adoption, right? So
Incredible.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
So today, this is extremely interesting, because I think my final point is that perhaps this rise in regulation is really, in my opinion, kind of really changing the ecosystem. The crypto ecosystem in Africa has sort of wanted to be under the radar, understandably. But today, now that you see developments, there's a lot more lobbying, there's a lot more consultancy. You guys are doing great work at CV Labs, but there's a lot more actors that are coming together and really thinking about, what regulation do we need? And it's creating, I think, a much healthier discussions going forward, and hopefully, bring this to the next level for us.
Love it, Pascal. Just one thing, I'm taking away from this, and it's a hobby horse of mine. You talk about people not worrying about the blockchain and what it delivers. I do think it is something that needs to be adopted by the people who develop these solutions as well. When you're speaking to people about, what you can do for them, you don't hear Moment, for example, talking about the block and how that works, etc. They basically explain to you how they're going to get solar on your roof, and they explain to you how you can make money if you help fund that solar. So our conversations generally should be a little bit more inclusive, and by doing that, I reckon you can significantly improve adoption.
No, absolutely. If I look at today, even myself as a sort of trader from time to time, you want to do DeFi or interesting stuff, it's still too complicated for people to really look at it. In the context of Africa, when we're looking at the problems we're trying to solve, they are complex problems, but fairly basic. And obviously, and that needs to come with a basic solution, right? A solution that's been ironed out. And that is obviously allowed by the governments also.
Yeah, indeed. But Pascal, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pascal.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have Fireblocks on the call with us, and interesting to hear their insights. As he says, they sort of have a bird's eye view as to what's going on in the market, and they can clearly see a lot of adoption in Africa, which is super exciting for us. We're going to move on over to our next industry voice, Devin Krantz, who's the CEO and founder of the Web3 Sanctuary, which is also a portfolio company of CBVC. They went through our previous accelerator not too long ago. But Devin is not new to founding businesses. She's had a couple, namely Linum Labs, in the
Linum Labs,
blockchain space,
absolutely,
which
yeah.
is known to be the largest Web3 development house in South
Yeah.
Africa. So, Devin, great. I know most of your clients are all over the world, but
Yeah.
it's great to hear about your experience from Linum Labs. And of course, topic of conversation today is Web3 Sanctuary, what you guys are doing in the education space. Devin, awesome to have you here.
Yeah, and Devin, can I ask you this question? And I ask her this every time I speak to her virtually. Where in the world, literally, are you?
Hey guys, nice to see
Hello.
you.
Hello.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm in Cape Town at the moment. You haven't missed me yet. Don't worry, not this time.
So let's talk, Web3 Sanctuary. Why do you exist?
So Web3 Sanctuary existed came to existence out of a problem I was actually facing in my previous company, Linum Labs. So Linum Labs was a global blockchain production studio, meaning that we spent all of our time building big blockchain products and dApps for clients from all across the world. And these touched on every vertical, from like NFT marketplaces to DAOs, to DeFi protocols. But there was one common problem that all of our clients faced and that we were facing as well, is that there was a severe shortage of skilled blockchain developers actually available to bring these projects into fruition. Meaning that the available talent was super scarce. And when you did find it, it was really expensive. And it was also very difficult for our clients to kind of judge who was skilled enough to actually build these projects. And because of that, a lot of the time our developers ended up getting poached, which really sucked for us because that's not really a sustainable business model after a while. And we struggled with it for quite a while before we decided we want to actually flip the model on its head and take our 7 years worth of experience and put it into a succinct and very highly curated online education platform. So Web3 Sanctuary is an edtech platform to train and onboard the next generation of Web3 developers into the ecosystem to kind of fit that skills market gap. If we think about it, I guess in like South African company terms, maybe like a Coursera plus an OfferZen kind of for Web3. And that's kind of what we're aspiring to be, but with more fun aspects in it, like gamification. So we're including some on-chain gamification into our platform. And actually, we just launched the first version of our platform on Friday.
Wow. Congratulations,
Well
Devin.
done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's now available for you guys to go and play around with. We have a free tier and a paid tier as well, but we're always open to giving out some sneaky discount codes if you guys drop us a DM.
Devin, it's awesome to hear what you guys are doing. And I think that one of the gaps that you're providing, because I know that on the platform, you're not only doing education, bridging the gap between Web2 developers and Web3 and doing hardcore dev stuff, but it's also just general information on understanding the blockchain ecosystem. Pascal made a comment earlier, Kino, about how difficult it is to actually interact with this ecosystem. If you want to connect your MetaMask wallet to a DeFi protocol, it's very difficult. And obviously, as we get more adoption and the space matures, it will become a lot easier. But in the interim, you can hop onto providers and platforms like Web3 Sanctuary, where they can actually teach you how to do these things. Devin, maybe you can speak a little bit more as to the type of content that you guys have and what you see in general from an education space. What are people starving for in Africa and elsewhere?
Definitely. And I mean, it's something that I actually moved back to South Africa specifically to work on this project again, just because I feel like the impact that an educational type program can have in South Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa is massive. Just because now all of the students need to participate in this whole new global financial economy and interact with like all of these new global opportunities is a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop. So we basically want to empower our students with or democratize access to education, was the fancy way of saying it, by providing students that want to learn about Web3 and making it as easy and as accessible as possible to them that when they want to learn. So I mean, a lot of the time when you hear about Web3, blockchain, crypto, it's intimidating as hell. You don't really know where to start. And a lot of people come up to me being like, what do I do? Like, I don't have computer systems background. Like, I don't understand coding. I don't understand tech. You don't need to. And I think that's the brilliant thing about Web3 is because it does touch on so many verticals, anyone that's interested in it can kind of find their niche. And we want to provide them that first entry point into the market that's safe, trusted, secure, with friendly faces and incredible instructors as well. So we're not going to overwhelm you with technical terms and content. We don't talk too much about trading or the crypto side of things, but we really want you to understand the industry and help you find your niche and help you grow your career through this industry very well. So our courses range from everything from a blockchain 101 and advanced blockchain, and we dive more deeper into like Solidity and the more technical type topics as well.
So you're students, right? I mean, but by the way, I love what you're doing because on this continent, what we need is young people and older people who can build. right, who can build
Mhm.
for other people. Make sure that we bring the dollars and the pounds and the euros into South Africa, because we've been stuck in I would say the first industrial revolution. I don't even think we've sorted that out properly yet. So it's great that you're leapfrogging us into skills that are, for once, really future relevant. So well done for playing in that particular space. But what does your ultimate student look like? Do they have to be young? Do they have to be old?
Great
What, I mean, like who?
So we don't have, I guess, too much of a specific profile around
Yeah.
who we are targeting. We found that most of the people that are interested in our platform are actually as old as 15 to around 38 is kind of the demographic that is showing the most interest in what we're building, and a lot of interest from Africa and a lot of interest from India. And I think it's just because, I guess, the skills development aspect there and the opportunity for potential career progression is very, very high there. But from me personally, I would really love to act as a beacon for other women to get into the space, increase kind of the diversity more here. There was an article actually earlier this week that completely set me off, but I won't bring it up again here. But it's basically the entire Web3 space is completely male dominated. We're kind of sitting at the intersection of both technology and finance, which is kind of like combining two of the biggest, most male dominated industries together. And there's actually only 15% of women involved in the Web3 ecosystem. So I think in that sense, I really, really want to encourage more women to join this space, because it's fun, it's hard, but it's a really entertaining space to be in.
Okay, just hold 2 seconds. That camera just died.
Okay, well, I'll carry on the conversation. Keenan, we'll sort out the camera.
We can continue the conversation. This is the lovely thing about being live, right? We can sort these things out. I'll be back, and the positive is you don't get to see my face. Hold on, I'll be back right now. Get in. It's all yours.
Yes, Devin, I think it's something interesting that you touched on. To hear that statistic of 15% is quite interesting. I think from a CVC perspective, as you know, we put quite a lot of focus into that gender equality, into gender equality, and from our portfolio companies, 40% of our portfolio companies have a woman founder, which we're very proud of. We're proud to have you as one fully in that demographic as well, and doing the work that you're doing at Web3 Sanctuary. But from the data that you've seen in terms of the people that are coming onto Web3 Sanctuary, I know that you have a passion to educate women in the space that are interested in Web3 and want to have more knowledge on it. Are you seeing them come into the space?
I think it's a trend that I've noticed, not even just through Web3 Sanctuary, but in my previous company, and any companies that have interacted with that are female founded or owned or led, is that a lot of the time it acts as a beacon or a signal for other women to apply more. So in my previous company, Linum Labs, we actually had, I think, more than 60% of the team there was female. And we had, I think, half the team was Solidity developers, which is very rare, was female as well. Leadership was 75% female. In my current company now as well, we were, I think, over 50% female. So I think it's also what you put out and the environment that you create that encourages change. And on the side of men as well. So like men advocating for change, men being the ones to speak up and provide that room and provide that space. It's incredibly important to encourage that change. So what you guys like CV Labs, I think it's really impressive to hear that you have that statistic in your portfolio already. Because I think statistically around it's about 35% more likely that a team will perform if they're diverse. So diverse teams perform 35% more successfully than teams that are more one or the other.
Awesome, Devin. Well, Devin is known to be one of the powerhouse women Web3 founders in South Africa, and soon to be Africa, soon to be the world. So it's awesome to have you. Devin, what's next for Web3 Sanctuary?
Amazing. So we've actually just very exciting news. Also, we just landed quite a nice grant with ICP, which is the Internet Computer Protocol, and originally created by Definity Foundation. So they've got a new hub here now in Southern Africa, which we launched with them on Monday. We're really excited to actually create that. So we're creating a programming course for them in their native language. I think it's called Kybra. It's a Python-based language. So we're going to start working on that, and that'll be available soon. We also are in discussions with a couple of other larger protocols at the moment to do something similar, where we're actually creating courses, onboarding developers into their ecosystem, and kind of changing the recruitment model again on its head. I think recruitment as a whole is a very tricky industry. It might be time to innovate in that sector too, which we're very excited to be a part of, kind of changing it from recruitment to ecosystem growth. Yeah.
I love your focus on needing to get more women in. And, you know, we've been talking about doing some stuff together at Innovation City, for example, where I happen to be the co-founder. And, you know, we have 100% woman-run management team, which is a good start. So
That's amazing.
the nice thing from an executive perspective is we'll have to work on the shareholding, but don't tell anybody that, right? But I think there's a massive drive in our executive team to do exactly what you are saying. So I'd love to see how we can partner and drive that, not just here in Cape Town, but as part of our greater network. So I'm a massive fan. I was raised by my mom and by my grandmother. My dad was absolutely wonderful, but he spent most of his life working to obviously get us through school and everything. Not that my mom didn't, but a massive female influence in my life. So me personally, massive fan of needing to do this as well. So Devin, can't wait to actually take conversations of that nature further.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Kino, for your support. Actually, both of you have always been super supportive of my ventures.
This dude over here.
Devin, it's awesome to have you on the show with us. We're definitely going to have you back again. Mainly, but before we say goodbye, last comments on a couple of people that might be watching the show right now thinking, damn it, I want to enter the blockchain space. How do I do it? It's so daunting. Because I think the narrative around blockchain education, please correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, Jay, is most of the time it's bridging the gap between a developer that already exists within the Web2 ecosystem and then upskilling them to be a smart contract dev. What are your thoughts around someone that doesn't have experience in either of those and they're dying to enter the space?
So, I mean, you don't need to have experience in either of those to enter the space, and that's what we want to cater for. If you head over to our website, it's web3sanctuary.com.
Me and you don't, Kino.
No, I don't at all. I'm just going, but my problem is, I'm still a nice, young, strappy young man. I rock up to this course, they're going to start calling me grandfather, but okay.
No, not at all. So I think we have coders that we're teaching at the moment that are all age ranges. I was actually really surprised by that diversity. First of all, our beta testing group and our first signups as well. So it's been amazing to see. But it's really like we want to make this as approachable and unterrifying as possible. I know the space is super, super overwhelming. So start at our site. We'll guide you. We have a Discord channel. Even I know Discord can be a little bit intimidating to non-techies, but if you hop into the Discord, we'll hold your hands. We'll show you the way, and we'll make sure that your journey is kind of curated to what you're trying to achieve in the space. Because I mean, I've worked through blockchain. I've worked with clients in high fashion, mega lead sports, marketing. Like there's so many different fields that you can go into with this.
Well, through Midjourney, I know what Discord is. So
exactly,
I'm there. I have a Discord.
I was playing with that last night. I absolutely love that.
That's wonderful.
Devin, one more thing. How can people reach out to you?
So you're welcome to find me on LinkedIn or on through our website. You can actually jump straight into our Discord. I'll actually be right there. I'm very active on that. I have all of my links in my LinkedIn as well. So if you find me on there, it's Devin Krantz. It says Intergalactic Cat Herder, I think, in my title. So
I like it. I love it.
Devin, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We're very excited to speak to you again soon and hear more traction about what's going on at Web3 Sanctuary. Thanks. You're
Devin. A bloody rock star. Always great chatting to you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Kino, I think that's it.
That was it. That was really cool.
Well, one thing I want to say, because, you know, I think everyone watching this show is probably thinking in the last 3 episodes, we just talked about the bull run. I just want to let everyone know, first of all, not financial advice, of course. Second of all, if it's your first time investing into crypto, remember this asset is extremely volatile. So even as we enter a bull run, a long bull run.
That too.
I hope it's a long bull run.
You call it a bull run, actually.
Remember that there is always 30%, 40% drawdowns as we go up. It's not going to go up in a straight line. So you could see Bitcoin break the $40,000 barrier, and then it might go straight back down to 32,000. That's very, very normal. So whilst our strong opinion is that we are approaching a bullish cycle, it doesn't go up in a straight line. So keep that in mind. Last comment, you know, when you go through a bull run, you know, I always know one of the indicators for me, all these things I spoke about in the beginning of the show are some of them, right? Those are the technical data, institutions coming in,
right?
You know, but the sort of smell test on, are we entering a bull run, is you start seeing all this FOMO from retail investors jumping into the meme coins. We spoke about Doge, the famous the famous doggy coin.
So Dodge or Doge?
It's Doge.
As a Doge.
Yes, it's Doge.
Oh.
And now, I mean, of course, we saw Pepe the Frog, and now we're starting to see a little uptick in this new coin called Fufu, Chinese meme coin. It's a dog coin. I mean, they really are there for a bit of a laugh. You could argue it's art, but that is an indicator for me that things are looking good.
Yeah.
Well,
listen, all I can say from my side is whether we're talking about, Doge or Dodge or Pepe or Peep, whatever. Right. At the end of the day, my focus is like the pragmatic stuff. What can we do? Where can we get up the line? And we're going to create some artificial intelligence, right, on the show, so that when the finance guys speak, we actually know what the hell they're talking about.
100%.
I thought a bull run was in the Serengeti until I realized I don't think they have any bulls there. But Gideon, always a pleasure. I'm loving this. We just decided to do the dance show. It's happening. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
No, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
And remember, as I was saying to Pascal, the crypto and blockchain, as we always speak about, they are different, right? A lot of the true use cases, real utility is in Africa.
Yes.
But the crypto bull run, it creates a lot of FOMO in the broader market, and it starts making and forcing people to pay attention, which will increase adoption in the real use cases. So although there's a lot of Fufu, Pepe, Fifi, and Chichi going on, at the end of the day, it actually, there's some negatives to the side as well. Of course, there's scams, there's crazy things going on, but the crypto bull run is going to increase adoption into the utility space, the space that we care about, the space that we look at.
I like it. I'm only teasing you about the bull run thing, by the way. I think I kind of know what a bull run is. I hope. Anyway, this, of course, is, as you know, and we said right at the beginning of each and every show, the Africa Blockchain Breakdown. There's something nice about that. The Africa Blockchain Breakdown.
So I heard a French accent coming out there.
Hey, monsieur, what are you talking? Yeah, we're having some bull run with some frogs on the side. Anyway, great being with you.
The legend himself, Kino and Gideon.
When a Greek god calls you, what did you call me?
The true legend of the space.
Oh, no, never. But thank you. Always great being with you. And if you're doing some amazing stuff, by the way, and you want to be included in the show, you should drop us an email. Now, we didn't discuss this beforehand. So whose email are we going to give out?
Me and emails. Yeah.
Just Kino. Kieno. So KIEN for naughty, which is my nature, and then O. KAMM for Mickey Mouse, IES for sugar @gmail.com. Let's just leave it at that.
Simple enough.
Cooler bags.
Awesome. Cheers,
See
everybody.
you next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.